Well, I got no words. Pens and Leafs. The Pens and the Leafs on Penguins postgame on its new home of On the Ice and Behind the Benches starts right now. Also streaming later on Sports for Beginners. But again, as I said up the top, I I got no words. Pens and Leafs. Let's get to it. Welcome to Sports for Beginners. This is the show where I cover the Pittsburgh Penguins, Toronto Blue Jays, and take you on a journey through the world of sports from the fans' perspective. Here is your host, Scott McGregor. Let's have some fun. The Pittsburgh Penguins and the Toronto Maple Leafs. The second time these two teams duke it out, this time and only time at PPG Paints Arena as part of the short pit stop at home before a 3-game road trip begins, starting in Philadelphia. Well, that's our final score we're going to talk about in just a few minutes. The Penguins dropping 7-2 to the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Maple Leafs have taken a 2-0 lead in the season series, and the Penguins will have to have some road cooking happening in Toronto if they want to. It's obvious they're going to lose the season series, but if they want to at least avoid being swept by the Maple Leafs, they're going to have some road cooking when these two teams clash before Christmas. On the eve before Christmas Eve at 4 p.m. Eastern in Toronto at Scotiabank Arena on December 23rd. But enough about going right to the action coming up when these two teams clash again for the final time in the 2026-20 NHL regular season. Before we could even get to that, we got to get to matchup number 2 of the 2025-2026 NHL regular season between the two clubs, at which time head coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins, Dan Muse, and the Penguins entered with a record of Craig Berube, and the Toronto Maple Leafs came to Pittsburgh with a record 10-11-3 coming in to this game at PPG Paints Arena on Saturday night. In goal, we'll take a look at the officiating crew and jump right into penalties before we take our first break of the show. But in goal, as we jump to between the pipes, for the Pittsburgh Penguins, it was because of a back-to-back, Tristan Jarry in at backup if needed. Dan Muse going with Artur Shilovs to go against the Maple Leafs in this one. So Shilovs will get the start for the Penguins. He would have to be relieved by Tristan Jarry after being pulled, and we'll get to that momentarily. On the other side of the ice, the Toronto Maple Leafs countered with number 35, Dennis Hildeby in goal, and Joseph Woll with the backup duty if needed. So when we go between the pipes, the Penguins sending number 37 between the pipes, backed up by number 35. Meanwhile, for the Maple Leafs on the other side, they will send number 35 between the pipes, and number 60 is on the bench, waiting in backup if needed. Game time started 15 minutes after 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Mountain, and of course, over in the UK, France and Sweden, 1 a.m. in the morning, 15 minutes after that time, and 15 minutes after midnight in the UK. The officiating crew, as we jump closer to getting into penalties, our pinstripe referees were number 43, Morgan McPhee, and number 6, Francis Charon. Francis, if I pronounce your last name wrong, apologies. Same for Morgan McPhee, who was wearing the number 43 in Pittsburgh as the referee. The linesman and linesperson, as they would be called in the Women's Hockey League, they were wearing number 86, Jesse Marquise, and number 82, Mark S., wearing number 82. I should say wearing number 92 was Mark S. Number 86 were by Jesse Marquise. Off we go to the penalties to kickstart our recap. We're going to do so via NHL.com, showcasing our scoring line here, kicking off with our penalties, going by period. In the second half of the show, we will get to the 3 stars of the game and the scoring as well. A minor note that 2 power play goals were scored, 1 to each side, the Maple Leafs with a goal on the power play and the Penguins with a goal on the power play as well. But let's start at the killing time. And no, not killing, I mean at the penalty kill time, just to be clear. We start off in the first period, with Dakota Membris going to the box for holding Evgeny Malkin, able to draw a 2-minute minor on Dakota Membris for holding. Dakota, I will say, coming in at 8 minutes, 6 seconds in. When you're on the penalty kill in the PWHL, if you score on the penalty kill, that's known as a jailbreak. But here in the NHL, you score on the penalty kill, shorthanded, you don't free your guy out of the box. It's no jailbreak, like it would be in the PWHL, where you free your person out of the box. The next Maple Leaf penalty that would come in the first period would go to Max Domi, 2 minutes for hooking. Danton Heinen picking up the draw, 2 minutes for hooking for Max Domi at 15 minutes and 26 seconds of the first period. The Penguins end the first period and end the penalty summary of the first period by taking their first penalty of the game. Almost at the same time they would end the second period, taking 2 penalties. Same minute, just a little earlier than the second period penalty that went to Brian Rust for holding in the second period. The penalty went to number 19 of the Penguins, Connor Dewar. 2 minutes for hooking. Oliver Ekman-Larsson, or OEL for short, able to draw that penalty on Connor Dewar. Penalty came in at 18 minutes and 12 seconds. In period number 2, the Penguins with the only penalties of the period. The first, drawn by Maple Leafs forward Matthew Knies, who gets Parker Wotherspoon to take a 2-minute minor for roughing at 12 minutes and 5 seconds. First power play of the period for the Maple Leafs. Second power play overall for the Maple Leafs after getting one late in the first period and taking 2 penalties to give Pittsburgh the first 2 power plays of the game. The Maple Leafs would go to their third power play of the game after Brian Rust was caught at 18 minutes and 57 seconds for holding Dakota Joshua, who drew the penalty on Brian Rust. 2 minutes for holding. Dakota Joshua picking up the draw of the penalty on Brian Rust for the Penguins. Penguins going back to the PK before the second period is over. It's at 18 minutes and 57 seconds. A lot of penalties were called both to Toronto and Pittsburgh in period number 3. 2 of them each called at 14 minutes and 18 seconds. The Maple Leafs guilty of a minor penalty for roughing on Evgeny Malkin, as well as Anthony Mantha. Both Malkin and Mantha also guilty of minor penalties for roughing at 14 minutes and 18 seconds. 2 minutes each to a squad for Malkin, for Mantha, and on the Maple Leaf side, Scott Lothington, I'll say Scott Lawton, there we go. Scott, if I pronounce your last name wrong, I apologize. And of course, the other penalty for roughing for the Maple Leafs went to Jake McCabe. So Scott L., Jake McCabe for the Maple Leafs with the penalties in the third period for roughing. Evgeny Malkin and Anthony Mantha with the penalties for Pittsburgh for roughing at 14 minutes and 18 seconds. And John Tavares wraps up our penalty summary here at 16 minutes and 29 seconds with a 2-minute minor for tripping Ben Kindle, who also scored in this game, by the way, draws the penalty on John Tavares. To wrap up our first segment and wrap up our penalty summary, when we return, just how were the Penguins unable to come all the way back from down 4 goals that were scored unanswered in the second period of play by Toronto after immediately tying the game before Easton Cowan gave the Leafs back the lead. Plus, the captain Crosby made some history in this game. The article by Wes Crosby coming up momentarily as we roll on, getting you set up for the Pens and the Flyers on the next episode of Penguins Postgame. We'll talk about that later. But speaking of Pittsburgh sports, we're also getting you set up for Bills versus Steelers. Since we talked Bills postgame, I'll remind you of who is out for the Buffalo Bills, who is out for the Pittsburgh Steelers on Bills postgame. But here on this show, I will remind you as to who is going to not play for Buffalo in this Steelers-Bills matchup. That later on. We continue Penguins postgame just in a few minutes. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere. There's more great conversations and content right around the corner. Sports for Beginners will be right back in a moment.
CNT Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down, nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on CNT Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on CNT Radio.
Hi, Scott. It's Ali here. I just wanted to mention that I'm really enjoying the show and I'm really enjoying what you're putting together. And I wanted to just say I'm enjoying being a part of it as well. So please keep up the phenomenal work and make sure you guys keep this podcast going because it really suits you well.
I wonder if I could make it. It's almost getting to 8 o'clock p.m., and I am still a few more steps away from home to get to my computer to listen to CNT Radio's Cosmopolitan Culture Club. The best of the best music from around the world. Can't wait. I think I made it. CNT Radio, making your day brighter, one song at a time. Now, let's take you back to the action. To the rink and field we go. We find Scott McGregor.
Be sure to not miss a moment of the action in the Women's Hockey League as the PWHL has returned on Sports for Beginners, the podcast. Be sure to not miss a moment of the action right from the get-go. Our next coverage will be when the Boston Fleet take on the Vancouver Golden Eyes on the next PWHL recap. And also on the slate, the Toronto Scepters battling the Ottawa Charge in the Battle of Ontario. Find out which Battle of Ontario we are going to be doing during the recap show between the Golden Eyes and the Boston Fleet. But right now, let's get back to NHL action. We talked about the officiating crew. We went between the pipes, went through where this season series stands. We also went through who the head coaches are. And as I've said, we went through the officiating crew. Now we've gone through the penalties. Now let's go to the fun part, the scoring, because nobody likes to see your man in the penalty box most of the time, right? Nobody likes to see your guy in the penalty box, right? Of course, right. Let's get down to it, shall we? Here we go. Of course, we have NHL.com up with our game center for the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Toronto Maple Leafs. for the day of this game, which was last night, Saturday, November 29th, 2025. Matchup number 2 of 3 between the two squads for the 2025-2026 season. First period scoring started with 2 goals for the Maple Leafs and 1 goal for the Pittsburgh Penguins. At this time, it was Dennis Hildeby versus Artur Shilovs, but it would not stay that way. We'll get there when we get to the second period of play. We start off with, at 6 minutes and 46 seconds, Oliver Ekman-Larsson getting the Maple Leafs on the board early. His 4th goal of the season. Matthew Knies picks up assist number 19 of the season. Austin Matthews back in the game, ready to go. He picks up assist number 7 on the season as the Maple Leafs jump out in front 1-0. But after a penalty called on Toronto, reminding you of what that penalty was, that was Dakota Memris, 2 minutes for holding at 8 minutes and 6 seconds. Literally a few seconds later after that penalty was called, the rookie, Ben Kindle, his 6th goal in his NHL career, 6th goal as a Penguin. It's a PPG for PGH, and the Pittsburgh Penguins are on the board at 8 minutes and 14 seconds into the game's first period. Primary assist went to Sidney Crosby, his 11th of the season. Also picking up the 11th assist of the season, Brian Rust, who picked up the secondary assist on Kindle's 6th goal of the year. He is a rookie, so this is also his 6th goal of the season, and most likely of his career. Penguins tie it up on the power play 1-1. Maple Leafs won, Penguins won, but it would not stay that way. At 11 minutes and 6 seconds, Easton Cowan, another rookie, speaking of rookies, hits his 3rd goal of the season. Picking up the primary assist, his 21st of the season, is William Nylander. Morgan Riley picks up assist number 15 of the season, and it's also the secondary assist that he picks up, 2-1 after 20 minutes of play. Period number 2, where the Penguins outshot the Maple Leafs after 2 periods of play. Well, they may have been outshooting the Maple Leafs 10-8, but they weren't scoring goals. Here were the goals that were scored. 4 unanswered, 3 of them coming in the second period. 1 of them started to give Toronto a 2-1 lead, which is what they would have after 20 minutes of play. That quickly became a 2-goal lead 2 minutes and 24 seconds in, as Bobby McMahon picks up his 6th goal of the season. Morgan Riley, 2nd assist of the evening, 16th assist of the season. Oliver Ekman-Larsson also picking up an assist, his 16th of the season. 3-1 Maple Leafs, early second period. Let's go to period number 3, where let's keep it going here in the second period. I would have jumped over Dakota Joshua and Nicholas Roy. Speaking of Dakota Joshua, he made it 3-1. He made it a 3-goal lead, I should say, for the Toronto Maple Leafs, a 3-goal lead, but made the score 4-1. Maple Leafs, still early second period. 2 minutes and about 53 seconds later, it was Dakota Joshua. And at that time, Dan Muse made the call. Artur Shilovs is coming out of the game, and he's not happy about his performance, not one bit. Jari comes into the game and would play for the rest of the game after Dakota Joshua's 3rd goal of the season. Nicholas Roy on the assist, his 5th of the season. Newcomer Troy Stecher picks up his 2nd assist as a Maple Leaf and of the season. 4-1 Maple Leafs. After a penalty taken by the Penguins just before the 13-minute mark of the period, which was when the goal was scored, but it was at 13 minutes and 58 seconds. Penalty went to Parker Wotherspoon, 2 minutes for roughing. After Parker took that penalty, Nicholas Roy mentioned he had an assist on the Dakota Joshua goal, Dakota's 3rd of the season. Nicholas Roy puts himself in the mix. It is 5-1. Toronto as they score PPG for TOR. Max Domi picking up an assist, his 1st of the game, 4th of the season. Domi would pick up another assist later on in the game. Bobby McMahon. McMahon does not have an assist yet in this game. Picks up one here on the Nicholas Roy power play goal, his fourth of the season, and he would only have one assist this hockey game. Bobby McMahon, that is. So despite the shots on goal not being in the favor of the Maple Leafs and being outshot 10-8 after 40 minutes of play, the Maple Leafs have the thing that matters. They have a 5-1 lead and a 4-goal lead heading to the third period of play against the Penguins. They are 20 minutes away from taking a 2-0 lead in the season series. 20 minutes away from doing so. They do it, but they're not going to get away with a 7-goal lead. Nope. What was a 4-goal lead at 5-1 becomes a 3-goal lead as the captain, my captain, Sidney Crosby, scores his 16th goal of the season. Kevin Hayes on the primary assist, his second assist of the year, and second assist as a Penguins player, quickly makes it 5-2. Toronto still on top by 3 goals, 5-2. Can the Penguins come all the way back and make it 5-5? Guess what? Even though Jari's in the net, that didn't seem to faze the Maple Leafs one bit. They gave up a goal in the first period after scoring the opening goal in the first period, and they scored the third goal in the first period, but their second of the night to give them the lead. And that's exactly what they did after Crosby made it 5-2. Toronto, giving Pittsburgh their second goal of the night. Austin Matthews. Crosby scored to make it 5-2. Let me make it 6-2. My side. His 10th goal of the season. Max Domi's second assist of the evening. 5th of the season. Matthew Knies picked up an assist earlier in the game. He picked up one on the Oliver Ekman-Larsson goal in the first period. Picks up one here on Matthews' 10th goal of the season, his 20th assist of the season, just after Crosby at the 4-minute 37 mark of the period made it 5-2 Toronto over Pittsburgh. Matthews from Domi and Knies made it 6-2 Maple Leafs at 7 minutes and 14 seconds. Then later, Jari's still in the net. No empty net here, but Nicholas Robinson is not fazed at all. He puts it in the back of the net, unassisted, for his 6th goal of the season at 13 minutes and 16 seconds, ultimately giving Toronto the game and a 7-2 win over the Pittsburgh Penguins. Just like in the second period and in the first period, Penguins outshooting Toronto after regulations period 15-8 to eclipse a final shot total of 35-23 in the shots on goal category. So the Penguins may have won the shots on goal battle, but they lost the war with the Maple Leafs when it comes to the goals that really matter. Kicking it into overdrive here on our second segment of the show before we go back to the stats by looking ahead to our 3 stars of the game. And I'll even provide you with my 3 Penguin stars. Shocker, there's also a Maple Leaf involved in this. Once we are through with the 3 stars of the game. We may do that after the next break, should we decide to take a break after the 3 stars of the game without going to the stats. In any case, let's get to it, shall we? Your 3rd star went to Toronto Maple Leaf forward Max Domi. No goals, 2 assists, 2 points. He was your 3rd star. Your 2nd star went to Maple Leaf defenseman Oliver Ekman-Larsson. 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points. And your 1st star went to Austin Matthews, Toronto Maple Leaf center, picking up a goal, an assist, and 2 points as a result. Without bringing this up here on the shared screen, we're going to bring us back here into the fold. And here are my Penguins 3 stars of the game. Spoiler alert, there is a Maple Leaf involved in the conversation. My 3rd star goes to my captain, Sidney Crosby, 1 goal in the game, no assists, 1 point. My 2nd star goes to Tristan Jarry, coming in relief of Arthur Shelovs after a rough going for Arthur Shelovs in Pittsburgh. I thought Jarry had a better game than Arthur Shelovs did, but you're on the you're on a back-to-back. So the fact that you started Jari against the Jackets and then you went to Shilovs against the Maple Leafs, I'm glad we got the win with Jari in net against Columbus. But I think you probably should have gone Jari, and then if it went to a bad night for Jari, then you go to Shilovs and Shilov can try to sort the mess out. But I do like the idea of starting Shilovs to get the game, but then again, it was just not a good night for Arthur Shilovs. Not a good night. And my first star, and this is where the Maple Leaf comes into play. But that's gonna go to the Maple Leaf goaltender. Surprise, it wasn't a player, like an actual skater that is shooting the puck. It's actually gonna go to the Maple Leaf goaltender, Dennis Hildeby. So Dennis Hildeby, Tristan Jarry, and Sidney Crosby, my Penguins 3 stars of the game, even though the actual 3 stars of the game were Austin Matthews, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, and Max Domi. Matthews was the first star, Ekman-Larsson was the second star, and Domi was your third star. Domi, Ekman-Larsson, and Matthews, your actual 3 stars of the game. Now, we mentioned Crosby made some history. Well, this is true. This is very true. Crosby did make some history. Wes Crosby of the NHL, an independent correspondent, says Austin Matthews scored for the first time in 3 games since returning from a lower body injury, and the Toronto Maple Leafs won 7-2 against the Pittsburgh Penguins at PPG Paints Arena on Saturday. Matthews, who also had an assist for the second straight game, missed 5 games from November 13th to November 22nd, that is. Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Bobby McMahon, Nicholas Roy also each had a goal and an assist, and Morgan Riley, Max Domi, and Matthew Knies each had 2 assists for the Maple Leafs, now coming out of this game with a record of 11-11-3, who had lost 8 of their last 10 games, going 2-6-2, including 4-2 at the Washington Capitals on Friday. Dennis Hildeby made 33 saves. A lot more entries making some things happen. Craig Berube, the Toronto's coach, said a lot more entries and making some things happen. We got rewarded for it. Crosby had a goal and an assist for the Penguins, now 12-7-5, who were 3-1-1 in their previous 5 games. Arthur Shilovs allowed 4 goals on 10 shots before being pulled, just 4 minutes and 53 seconds into the second period. Tristan Jarry made 10 saves in relief after recording 26 in a 4-3 overtime win at the Columbus Blue Jackets on Friday. Coach Dan Muse said after the game for the Penguins, "I thought we had the puck a lot within the chances. I think we have to create more quality on some of those. There were opportunities there. I don't think our execution was there on a number of them. And then the chances we were giving up, they're just too loud. They're just too big." Ekman-Larsson put Toronto ahead 1-0 on its first shot on goal at 6 minutes and 46 seconds of the first period. He collected a loose puck off his own pass attempt to Easton Cowan and scored with a snapshot from the slot to extend his point streak to 9 games, 3 goals, 7 assists. However, Ekman-Larsson wound up leaving the game in the third period with an upper body injury. Craig Berube said on the action with Ekman-Larsson, "I'm hoping he's fine. I don't know yet, but we'll evaluate him tomorrow. I think he'll be okay, but we'll see. He brings a lot. I mean, is a versatile guy back there for us." Chris Letang said on the post-game interview, "Honestly, this one is hard to assess. Looks like we had tons of chances. We just didn't grab the momentum by putting the puck in the net. After that, every time we made mistakes or we opened up the game, they capitalized on it." Ben Kindle was the first person to score for Pittsburgh, and he tied it 8 seconds into a power play at minutes and 14 seconds. He batted the puck out of mid-air after Steven Lorentz chopped it off Crosby's stick, and it bounced off Scott Laughton's shoulder. Cowan gave the Maple Leafs a 2-1 lead at 11 minutes and 6 seconds with a one-timer set up by William Nylander. Now, Crosby did cut it to 5-2 at 4 minutes and 37 seconds of the third period with a backhand. It was his 16th goal of the season, and get this, it was his career 641st goal in the NHL, passing Dave Andreychuk for 15th in the NHL history. Crosby also had another multi-point game, an assist, and a goal. Yeah, he's coming. He's coming. He's coming. He's coming for those guys who have had multi-point games, including Wayne Gretzky, Marcel Dion, Mr. Hockey himself, Gordie Howe. And he's also coming for some stuff, according to the Penguins' hockey history. When it comes to Mario, he's coming. And I credit Joe Brand for bringing this up after Crosby's goal. Actually, it was the old two-nighter Phil Borg who brought it up. Crosby is 10 goals away from Mario for something in Penguins history. I got to remember what that was. I should have noted that down when I was listening to the game, but I was doing PWHL recap before I was trying to get caught up with the game. Guess what? It so happened that Crosby managed to score when I tuned into the game, so I guess that was good timing on my part, but it is what it is. All right, we're going to take a timeout. When we come back, shots on goal, all of the remaining stats for this hockey game, plus the play of the game and 3 stars of the game on the Penguins Radio Network, Toronto Maple Leafs Radio Network, and of course, the TV sides for both sides, all brought to you by their respective sponsors. When we come back, we'll get to stats of the game, the final totals between the Maple Leafs and the Penguins. Right off the jump, we'll flip from hockey to football for a little bit so I can let you know who will not play for the Buffalo Bills against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I will reiterate this as well as who is not playing for the Steelers on our next edition of Bills Postgame. The inactives for Buffalo versus the Steelers, plus Penguins, Maple Leafs, final stats from Saturday, and a look at just a few of the games from Saturday in an 11-game slate. We might go through them all, but we will see. All that still to come when Penguins Postgame, streaming on Sports for Beginners and on its new home of On the Ice and Behind the Benches, continues with the play of the game, inactives for Buffalo versus Pittsburgh on this Sunday afternoon between the Steelers and the Bills, plus final stats from this game between the Pens and the Leafs, and of course the shake of the game and game puck of the game on the way as we roll on. You're listening to Penguins Postgame on the Ice and Behind the Benches and streaming later on Sports for Beginners. We're back in just a little bit. Don't go anywhere. There's more great conversations and content right around the corner. Sports for Beginners will be right back in a moment.
Take another look with Gerda Felix and Melanie Taddeo Malo, two powerful women of diverse backgrounds having genuine, unique, and uncomfortable conversations that everyone needs to have. Join Melanie and Gerda for conversations about what is missing from human connections.
Hello? How are you, my friend? Why? What's the matter? Why feeling bored and lonely? Look! Look at me! I am always happy! The only reason I can tell you it's because I listen to CNT Radio. All the best shows you can think of. The Melting Pot, the Cosmopolitan Culture Club, and the Song Bank. There are also many more new shows to come. Please make sure to visit her website at http://sienna-t.wordpress.com/sienna-t-radio. Oh, now I can hear you more cheerful. CNT Radio, making your day brighter, one song at a time. Now, let's take you back to the action. To the rink and field we go. We find Scott McGregor.
The Penguins lost 7-2 to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Before we get right back to it here on Penguins postgame, let's jump to the gridiron side for a little bit and reveal to you the inactives for Bills versus the inactives for the Buffalo Bills as they prepare to take on the Steelers. And for this game, the Buffalo Bills, as I will reiterate on Bills postgame, they will be without wide receiver Joshua Palmer, linebacker Terrell Bernard, cornerback Jamarcus Ingram, defensive tackle Matthias, offensive tackle Dion Dawkins and Spencer Brown, and tight end Dalton Kincaid is also out. You know what? While we're at it, I might as well go over the Steelers, and you're going to hear more about this on Bills postgame. Right off of the jump of Bills postgame, we're going to go over the inactives before we get into the game. So here we go for the Steelers. They will be without Scotty Miller, wide receiver, third emergency quarterback Will Howard. They will also be without cornerback Darius Slay, defensive linebacker Logan Lee, and defensive tackle Derek Herron. So for the Steelers, no Scotty Miller, no Will Howard, no Darius Slay, no Logan Lee, and no Derek Harmon. For the Buffalo Bills, they will be without Joshua Palmer, Terrell Bernard, Jamarcus Ingram, P. Matthias, Dion Dawkins, Spencer Brown, and Dalton Kincaid. Those are the inactives for the Bills versus Steelers coming up in just 30 minutes from now, which means we got to kick this show into high gear. So unfortunately, we won't have enough time to go through a lot of the games in the NHL out-of-town scoreboard, but we should have time to rapid fire the game puck of the game, shake of the game, and of course, get through these stats, which we're going to do so in just a few minutes. For now, let's take you back to hockey for the play of the game. And our play of the game, this one's going to go to the Toronto Maple Leafs side, and it's going to go to the rookie Easton Cowan, who quickly put Toronto back in front after Ben Kindle tied things up on the power play at a goal apiece in the first period of play. Now, a reminder that the Penguins would not score again until 4 minutes and 37 seconds into the third period, where Crosby quickly made it 5-2. At the time, it was 5-1 after 2 periods of play. Good enough for my play of the game is the goal by Easton Cowan. Here are the men on the call who had Hockey Night in Canada on the call. Just going to avoid the ad here. That's why I have it muted, even though we could see it on the screen here. And we'll bring the guys who had the call on Hockey Night in Canada to jump in right here for our play of the game. Easton Cowan finishes crisp passing play, which ultimately gave the Leafs a 2. That's good enough for my play of the game. Enjoy.
December 15th, 1985. For the backhand stop by T-Lob. In for Easton Cowan. Steamer gets 3-game the lead.
Well, a real sense of urgency there. Hey, you give up a goal, you get a commercial break. And as a line, you just try to say, sleepy part of this game over. This is just good hard work in the offensive zone. And how about that give and go? You could see Cowan was almost starting to turn. Nylander looked like he was going to shoot with his stick in the air. Look at the feet of Cowan. All you saw there, a little bit off balance because he wasn't expecting it back. But what a job of making the adjustment and making sure. And Easton Cowan, man, coming off.
What a day for Easton Cowan. Good enough for our play of the game on Penguin postgame, but Easton Cowan, I mean, the dude is just ready to rock and roll and do whatever needs to be done to get the win. Again, that made the score, which would later go to 5-1 before Sidney Crosby put puck on stick and right by Dennis Hildeby to make it 5. It would eventually end, which would be our final score, as the Maple Leafs take a 2-0 lead in the 2025-2026 season series. Pittsburgh will try to avoid the sweep when these two teams clash in December next month. All right, just under 25 minutes away from Steelers-Bills, which means we have to get on our high horse here. So let's go ahead and do that. Shots on goal, as I mentioned, won by the Pittsburgh Penguins, 35-23. They outshot the Maple Leafs, 35-23, in a game that saw 55 face-offs and 3 penalties to a side that ended up in power play opportunities. The Toronto Maple Leafs winning 54.5% of those faceoffs, 30 out of 55. Penguins winning 45.5% of those faceoffs, winning 25 out of 55. Both power plays went 1 for 3 on the power play. On the penalty kill, both penalty kills 2 for 3. Killing off 2 of their penalties, both power plays only scoring once on 3 opportunities. Both teams combined for 10 minutes in the box in penalty minutes, 10 minutes for the Leafs, 10 minutes for the Penguins. Leafs out-hit the Penguins by 3 hits, 19-16, the final tally in hits. Maple Leafs out-hit the Penguins 19-16, excuse me. They also outblocked the Penguins 26-11 in blocked shots. Penguins winning a little bit of the giveaways category there, only with 11 giveaways. Toronto had 19, but the Leafs get the measure of revenge here with 6 takeaways to the Penguins' 2 takeaways on the evening. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, the shake of the game and the game puck of the game, plus who's next for Pittsburgh, who's next for Toronto, and what's next on Sports for Beginners and on the ice and behind the benches, coming up momentarily after the next break of our program, which comes your way in just a little bit. But here we're going to go ahead and take a look at the out-of-town scoreboard, taking a look at a few games in the 11-game slate that went final, beginning in New York, where the New York Rangers fell 4-1, I should say, to Brandon Hagel and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Down in Denver, the Montreal Canadiens fell 7-2 to the Colorado Avalanche. In Beantown, we needed a shootout, but the Boston Bruins pick up a 3-2 win over the Red Wings in Beantown. In New Jersey, we get a 5-3 loss to the Philadelphia Flyers. The Flyers will face the Penguins tomorrow, as we are recording this on Sunday, November 30th, 2025. They beat the Devils 5-3. The Winnipeg Jets beat the Nashville Predators in Nashville 5-2. Dylan Holloway with the only goal in a 1-0 shutout win over the Utah Mammoth for the St. Louis Blues. And over in Vegas, the Vegas Golden Knights beat the San Jose Sharks 4-3. And one last final we're going to get to here. The Edmonton Oilers shut out the Seattle Kraken 4-0 in Seattle. 2 shutouts to speak of in this game, in this slate of games, I should say. A few games went to a shootout. Boston was one of them. 1 game went to overtime. We'll get to the other shootout and the overtime game a little bit later, as that would wrap it up. But speaking of wrapping it up, that wraps up this segment. When we come back, we'll get to Canucks and Kings, as well as Sabres and Wild, all while giving you the shake of the game and the game puck of the game, which come your way next on Penguins postgame. Plus, who's next for the Pittsburgh Penguins? We've mentioned one of the teams already. Who's next for the Toronto Maple Leafs. We set that all up and get a short look at a 4-game slate of games for this Sunday around the NHL when we return to Penguins postgame, wrapping it up on the other side with a rapid-fire game, puck of the game, and shake of the game. Another quick look around the NHL, and then it's time to set the scene for what's next for the Maple Leafs, what's next for the Pittsburgh Penguins. We do it all on the other side. Stick with us. It's the Penguins and the Maple Leafs. They fell 7-2 to the Maple Leafs. The Penguins did. Time now for my favorite segment of Penguins postgame, the shake of the game. And of course, we have the game puck of the game. Before we get to the game puck of the game and the shake of the game, let's wrap up the Saturday out-of-town scoreboard so that we can worry about Sunday when we get there. The other finals to discuss besides the Penguins losing 7-2 to the Maple Leafs. As mentioned, one of these games went into overtime. That was between the Los Angeles Kings and the Vancouver Canucks. The Vancouver Canucks fell to Anze Kopitar and company in overtime in LA. The Kings beat the Canucks 2-1 in overtime. The other game that went to a shootout besides Boston going into a shootout was the Buffalo Sabres and the Minnesota Wild. Minnesota dropping 3-2 in the shootout despite a goal off the stick of Kirill Kaprizov to get things started. The game-winning goal in the shootout would go to Noah Ostlund, Noah O, with the shootout winner, Josh Doan, Josh D, with the game tire in the third period, Beck M with the game tire in the first period before Minnesota would go up 2-1 thanks to a goal by Matt Boldy. Shootout winner for Boston, that would go to Casey Middlestat, who would get the shootout winner for the Boston Bruins. All right, let's get to the shake of the game. We're going to do that while we are on our shared screen. First, for the visiting Toronto Maple Leafs, just like I did in the Penguins 3 stars of the game, I'm going to go ahead and give it to Dennis Hildeby. 2 goals given up, 1 on even strength, 1 in the power play. Save percentage of .943. Made 33 saves, as mentioned in the Wes Crosby article, on 35 shots. 2 of the goals went behind him, 1 on the power play, that was by Ben Kindle, the other by Sidney Crosby, at even strength. Time on the ice for Dennis Hildeby, 59 minutes, 45 seconds. Moving on to the Penguins shake of the game. Speaking of the rookie Ben Kindle, that's going to go to him. Had a pretty good night for him. A goal, which registered a point. He was on the ice for 17 shifts, 15 minutes and 8 seconds. 5 shots on goal for Ben Kindle, 1 block, no hits, a giveaway to Ben Kindle, no takeaways. An honorable mention goes to Gino Machino, Evgeny Malkin, 6 shots on goal for Malkin this game. Had a face-off percentage of 6, not too shabby for Gino. But Gino was a -3. Gino. To the game, puck of the game we go. But first, let's take a look at the out-of-town scoreboard for today. Currently final, the Washington Capitals beat the New York Islanders 4-1. Tom Wilson with a goal on the power play. And at even strength, Bo Horvat goal on the power play. Empty net goal went to Alexei Protas, his 7th of the season. 4-1 the final. And you gotta bring up number 8 himself. Alex Ovechkin also picked up an empty net goal. Back-to-back empty net goals. And 1 goal each on the power play for each squad. Heading to the second intermission, or rather second period as we speak. The Anaheim Ducks have a 3-1 lead right now on the Chicago Blackhawks. Heading to the second period. Later tonight, and coming up in just under an hour from now, the Calgary Flames they visit the Carolina Hurricanes, who will host the Calgary Flames. And then coming up on TSN 5, it's the Senators and the Stars at 6 p.m. Eastern. Also available on TVA Sports. To the game, puck of the game we go. And that is going to go to, for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Despite his rough night, and I can understand why he was not very happy with the outcome and the way the start went for him, it's Arthur Sheloves that's going to get the game puck of the game. Yeah, I know. He didn't have a great night. 24 minutes, 37 seconds. I know he didn't have a good game. Made 6 saves on 10 shots, allowed 4 goals, both at even strength. Jari allowed 2 goals at even strength, 1 goal on the power play, 3 goals allowed regardless. Jari did have the better night in relief, but then again, he did face 13 shots and only made 10 saves. On the Maple Leaf side, the game puck of the game is going to go one of the goal scorers here. One of 2 players who had 2 assists in this game. And the lucky player from the Maple Leafs is going to be Max Domi. Domi had a pretty good game, despite his 20 shifts. 2 assists, 2 points. No goals on the ledger for Domi. Also spent 2 minutes in the box, but still a pretty good game. So, Domi Sheloves for the game puck of the game. Game puck of the game belonging to Arthur Sheloves for the Penguins. For the Maple Leafs, it belongs to Max Domi. Dennis Hildeby with the shake of the game for the Toronto Maple Leafs as our player of the game segment. And for the Pittsburgh Penguins, that shake of the game is going to go to Evgeny Malkin. Yeah, I know, I could have given it to Crosby. I could have given it to Ben Kindle because they actually did stuff. Ben Kindle and Crosby actually did stuff, but I thought Malkin deserved some credit as well. All right, ladies and gents, this show is just about ready to wrap it up, and in good time. We're about 5 minutes away from kickoff between the Buffalo Bills and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And as we inch closer to kickoff, it's time to set the scene. We're doing so via the NHL app, starting with the visiting team of Saturday night in the Toronto Maple Leafs. For Toronto, they're on a 6-game road trip. Playing Pittsburgh was just game number 4 of a 6-game road trip, in which they are now 3-2. I should say 2-2, excuse me, on the road trip. They lost to Montreal 5-2 on Saturday last week. Beat the Columbus Blue Jackets 2-1. In overtime, I believe. Then they lost the first of their back-to-back in Metro opponents to Alex Ovechkin and the Washington Capitals. Yes, they did beat the Jackets in overtime, and that was actually their first Metro opponent. Their third Metro opponent was the Penguins. They beat the Penguins 7-2 in regulation time. And they fell 4-2 to the Washington Capitals. Thomas had you covered on those ends, especially on the Penguins side. I have you covered on the Penguins side. He has you covered on the Maple Leafs side for the Maple Leaf Show. And with that being said, their 6-game road trip is down to 2 games left before they come home for a 4-game homestand. They will face the Florida Panthers Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m., 4:30 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Pacific is the last game that they will play on the road. That's in Raleigh, North Carolina, as the Maple Leafs battle the Carolina Hurricanes before they welcome in the Montreal Canadiens, Tampa Bay Lightning, San Jose Sharks, and the Edmonton Oilers this Saturday, December 6, 2025, as well as next Monday, not this Monday, which is December 1st, next Monday, December 8th, 2025, and wrapping up our next 5 games with the game on December 11th, part of the 4-game homestand, when the San Jose Sharks are in town. I should say it was a 6-game homestand. Oops, that's my bad. But anyways, wrapping it up here with, we have Florida, Carolina on the road, then Montreal in Toronto, followed by Tampa Bay in Toronto, and then San Jose in Toronto just to wrap up the next 5 there. Edmonton and Chicago to wrap up that homestand. And the Chicago game is a very important game that our host of On the Ice and Behind the Benches, I should say, and my brother is looking very forward to. Speaking of games looking forward to, we start off the Penguins' next 5 games as we wrap it up here on the show. I'm looking forward to Monday's game between the Philadelphia Flyers and the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Battle of PA continues tomorrow from Philadelphia at the Xfinity Mobile Arena. Looking forward to seeing what Game 2 has in store. Perhaps the Penguins will tie the series after losing in a shootout back on October 28th, back in Philadelphia, where this all began. After that, their 3-game road trip that starts in Philadelphia goes to Tampa Bay, where they will take on the Tampa Bay Lightning. And then, of course, they've got the Dallas Stars coming up. And then they will begin a homestand of their very own. 5 games at home, including at the Anaheim Ducks. I should say hosting the Anaheim Ducks on Tuesday, December 9th at 7 p.m. Hosting the Montreal Canadiens at 7 p.m. Eastern on Thursday, December the 11th. And then, of course, they will host Utah and San Jose on a back-to-back Saturday and Sunday. The game times 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, 12 p.m. Pacific for those games. And then Connor McDavid and company are in the house on December the 26th, or on December the 16th. As the Penguins begin their December schedule, they've got the Philadelphia Flyers, Tampa Bay Lightning, Dallas Stars, Anaheim Ducks, and Montreal Canadiens coming up. When we talk to you next on the Ice and Behind the Benches, it's the Battle of Pennsylvania once again. When we talk to you next for the Maple Leafs and the Penguins, that will be when the Penguins return to Toronto, hoping to avoid the sweep of the season series. They fell 7-2 to end the month of November. Can they avoid the sweep against Toronto? It all remains to be seen. As Mike Lang does after every Penguins win, we do it win or lose. Ladies and gentlemen, Elvis has just left the building. That'll do it for us here. Thank you so much for joining us. It's time for Bills and Steelers. I will see you, Bills Mafia and Steeler Nation, on Bills Postgame right after the game. Bills and the Steelers next on Sports for Beginners, and streaming later on the Ice and Behind the Benches. As for Penguins Postgame, we'll see you Monday after the Battle of Pennsylvania. Maybe we'll see you Tuesday. Regardless, we'll see you after the Pens and the Flyers. I can't wait. The Battle of PA is next time on Penguins Postgame. Let's go Pens! We'll talk to you after Pens and Flyers. Thank you so much for listening to Sports for Beginners. If you would like to learn more about the show, you can visit the podcast Facebook page or visit the official website. You can also send us an email at sportsforbeginnerspodcast8231@gmail.com. As we always remind you, it is not goodbye, it is until next time.